You knew it was only a matter of time before we did one of these. No, nothing? Fine. Let's start off with source code. Jumping forward in time isn't the only trick. Sometimes it's about reliving the same moment over and over again. And in source code, Jake Gyllenhaal plays Captain Coulter Stevens, a soldier who wakes up in somebody else's body on a commuter train that's about to explode. The twist? He's not physically moving through time. He's plugged into the last 8 minutes of another person's life. Each jump gives him the chance to prevent the bombing, but the clock resets every failure. Unlike conventional loops, he doesn't retain a body, only memories, skills, and knowledge. The stakes here feel intensely personal. The film explores identity, morality, and what you'd do if given dozens of chances to change a tragic outcome. Small details, a coffee cup, a passenger's glance, become crucial. Stevens must analyze, improvise, and act faster with each iteration, and the tension ratchets up because failure means permanent loss for everybody on that train. Visually, the filmmakers use subtle cues to show repeated loops, reflections, camera angles, and even dialogue shifts, letting viewers track what changes and what stays the same. It's a compact, high-stakes take on time manipulation that blends science fiction with a whole lot of thriller energy. Okay, hear me out. I know Predator isn't classic time travel in the traditional sense, but the Predator's cloaking and advanced tech let it bend perception, almost like manipulating how we experience time in combat. Movements, tracking, and attacks feel slowed for humans, while the Predator calculates multiple outcomes simultaneously. Some fans have likened it to a micro-scale temporal awareness, almost like the Yautja can see time differently, predicting actions before they actually happen. It's almost like a living time machine, giving the illusion of precognition, rewinding options and planning several moves ahead. Every trap, every leap, every thermal scan is a calculated use of this temporal advantage, making the hunter terrifyingly inevitable. The practical effects enhance this effect. The blur of rapid motion, the aliens' silent jumps, and the juxtaposition with human characters' panic create a kind of distorted rhythm of events. Director John McTiernan never explicitly calls it time travel, but the mechanics feel like a science fiction variant, in which the Predator kind of moves within time a little differently than people do. And speaking of seeing the future, that naturally brings us to the gold standard of pop culture time travel. I'm talking about the glory that is Marty McFly and Doc Brown and Back to the Future. So across the trilogy, time travel runs on a mutable single timeline. Every change in the past reshapes the future instantly, creating ripple effects. The DeLorean is the heart of it all, needing 88 miles per hour and a power source to generate the flux field, and in the first film, that's plutonium, stolen from Libyan terrorists, naturally. Later, lightning striking the Hill Valley Clock Tower, and by the third movie, Doc Brown upgrades to Mr. Fusion, tossing trash into the reactor. That train scene, one of the best in movie history. Disagree? Catch me outside. The DeLorean, that stainless steel body, it's not just iconic, it was chosen for smooth flux dispersal, according to Doc's technobabble. Now, what makes the system unique is how personal it gets. Marty, bumping into his parents at the school dance, starts erasing his own existence piece by piece. No multiverse, no branching timelines, just one world constantly rewriting itself. Which sucks, cause one misstep could unravel everything. Oh, if you're enjoying so far, make sure you subscribe. Thanks, it helps out a lot. Oh, Terminator. Time travel here works like a brutal one-way ticket. Skynet sends Terminators back, the Resistance sends humans, but there's no returning to the future. That's why both Kyle Reese and the T-800 arrive naked. The machine only displaces organic material, or machines covered in tissue. No weapons, no metal, no cheating. The timeline here is treated as more of a fixed thing, every action sealing fate tighter. Skynet tries to erase John Connor before he's born, but by doing so ensures that Kyle Reese fathers him. It's kind of a predestination paradox wrapped up in gunfire and leather jackets. Later films also muddle the rules, but in James Cameron's original vision, time travel wasn't about endless retries. It was about inevitability. Cause and effect chained so tightly that even attempts to change destiny only completed. Alright, Interstellar. Nolan grounds time travel in physics, not magic here. Okay, so when Cooper and crew orbit Gargantua, a massive black hole, the effect of relativity kicks in. 1 hour on the planet equals 7 years on Earth. This isn't jumping through a wormhole into the past, it's experiencing time at radically different speeds. Later on, Cooper drifts into the Tesseract, a higher dimensional space where past and future moments coexist. He communicates with his daughter through gravity, reaching across years in real time. Now here, time isn't a line, it's a landscape. The movie treats love and connection as forces just as real as relativity, suggesting that even across decades, bonds can bend time itself. Avengers, a symbol, because you know I'm talking about Endgame. And the MCU and how it leaned into multiverse logic. Now when the Avengers pull off the time heist, jumping into earlier movies to steal Infinity Stones, they explain the rules outright. Change the past and you don't rewrite your future, you create a branching timeline. That's why the Ancient One warns Bruce Banner about fractured realities. Tony Stark's time-space GPS device locks travelers to precise returns, keeping them from being lost in alternate strands. Captain America's ending proves the rules work both ways. He hops back, lives a life with Peggy, and still shows up in the main timeline as an old man. Unlike Back to the Future, this isn't about erasing mistakes, it's about managing multiverses. Which is why they had so many jokes about Back to the Future in Endgame. Every jump splinters reality, and the Avengers are just trying to tape it all back together long enough to win. Now, if that makes sense, even if it doesn't, hit that like button. Alright, let's talk about Looper. So we're gonna fast forward a couple decades, and time travel has gone criminal. In Looper, the mob of 2074 uses outlawed tech to send their enemies back 30 years straight into the waiting guns of hired assassins. No bodies, no evidence, just super clean disposal. But there's a catch. Eventually, every Looper is forced to close the loop by killing their older self. And when Joe faces old Joe, the system collapses. Suddenly, the future bleeds into the present, with memories and choices reshaping each other in real time. Unlike the neat paradoxes of the Terminator, Looper keeps things gritty and unstable. One small hesitation spirals into chaos, proving that time travel isn't sleek science fiction here. It's a dirty tool for power, and nothing stays under control for long. So what happens when the mission itself might be a trap? In Terry Gilliam's 12 Monkeys, Bruce Willis plays a convict hurled back from 2035 to stop a plague that wipes out humanity. But every trip back makes the timeline messier, not cleaner. He's haunted by visions of his own death, memories that feel like deja vu but turn out to be prophecy. And the more this guy tries to stop the outbreak, the more it becomes clear that he was always part of the story. The virus isn't avoidable, it's inevitable. And 12 Monkeys thrives on that paranoia, the sense that the timeline isn't a puzzle to solve but a prison to confirm. The twist? His death as a child watching an older version of himself die cements the loop. This thing is tragedy locked in time. From multiverses to military chaos, Tom Cruise's Edge of Tomorrow puts time travel on repeat, literally. When Major Cage gets splashed with alien blood, he inherits the invader's power to reset the day whenever he dies. It's kind of a brutal video game mechanic. Live, die, rinse, repeat. Every failure resets the clock and only his memories carry forward. That lets him train endlessly with Rita, turning from clueless desk officer into humanity's best chance at survival. Now, what makes this clever is the balance. The resets aren't infinite. Once the alien queen's link is broken, Cage loses the loop. So every death matters, and the stakes only get higher. The result? A rare blend of sci-fi, war movie, and Groundhog Day style time mechanics that somehow make getting killed a dozen times feel like progress. If Edge of Tomorrow is a video game time travel mechanic, then Donnie Darko is pure nightmare logic. A teenage boy plagued by visions of a giant rabbit suit named Frank discovers that he's caught in a tangent universe, a temporary pocket of reality spiraling toward collapse. The time travel here is metaphysical. Donnie manipulates events with subtle nudges, guided by Frank, until he realizes the only way to stabilize the timeline is to die. That plane engine that crashes into his room at the beginning? By accepting his death, he prevents the tangent from tearing everything apart. The beauty of Donnie Darko is that it doesn't spell out the science. It uses philosophy fade and cryptic philosophy of time travel book excerpts to frame its paradox. It's less about flux capacitors and more about destiny, wrapped in a haunting, surreal mood that still fuels Reddit debates decades later. And if you thought Donnie was mind-bending, then Predestination doubles down with the ultimate paradox. Ethan Hawke plays a temporal agent chasing a terrorist, but the real story follows a character named Jane John. Through a series of time jumps, we learn that Jane falls in love, has a kid, and undergoes gender reassignment, only to discover that every step was with themselves. Jane is the mother, the father, and the child all at once, a closed cause loop, completely self-contained. The film is meticulous in building this puzzle, never breaking its own rules. And by the end, it's not about stopping a terrorist, it's about confronting identity, destiny, and whether free will can exist if your entire life is already written in circles. It's the kind of twist-heavy time travel that makes you question everything, including your own timeline. Where Predestination is clearly paradoxical, Primer is the messy reality of what inventors would actually do if they built a time machine in a garage. Two engineers accidentally create a box that lets them slip back a few hours into the past. Now, instead of saving the world, they exploit it for stock trades. But then greed, paranoia, and mistrust kick in. They start making doubles of themselves, layering timelines, and by the third act, it's almost impossible to track how many versions exist. What makes Primer legendary is its commitment to realism. Director Shane Carruth, a former engineer, shot it on a micro budget, but loaded it with technical jargon and carefully mapped loops. It doesn't handhold the viewer. It drops you into the chaos of people misusing godlike power for petty gain. It's confusing, it's brilliant, and it's easily the most engineer take on time travel ever put to screen. Not all time travel is grim. Sometimes it's dumb and excellent! Yeah, in Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, two lovable slackers are gifted a phone booth time machine to pass their history class and secure their band's future. The rules here are super casual. They can grab Napoleon, Socrates, Joan of Arc, and Beethoven like Pokemon cards, drag them to San Dimas, and use them in a school presentation. Now, the result is way more about comedy than consistency, but the movie cleverly plays with the idea of future selves leaving objects or notes in the past to help them out. The time travel logic isn't airtight, but that's kind of the point. The movie turns it into a stoner-friendly gag machine. And hey, without Bill and Ted, we might never have gotten the phrase, "be excellent to each other," cemented into pop culture. Now finally, the granddaddy of them all, based on H.G. Wells' novel The Time Machine, follows a Victorian inventor who builds a literal chair-on-skis device to travel forward through time. Now, what sets this one apart is scale. Instead of decades or centuries, he jumps thousands of years, watching humanity evolve and de-evolve into the peaceful Elio and the predatory Morlocks. This one is less about paradoxes and more about using time travel as social commentary. The story frames time as a vast, almost indifferent river, with human struggles repeating endlessly across eras. Where most time travel films deal in short loops and corrections, The Time Machine zooms out to ask, what's the ultimate fate of humanity when we've exhausted every possible timeline? Don't forget to like and subscribe and let us know what you think in the comments below.